Welcome back to No Sugarcoating, next episode. I am Jerry Dale, and today I have Laura Charanza.
Yes.
She is a survivor for narcissists. And so we're going to talk to her. She's wrote a book called
It's
Ugly
called
Love.
Ugly Love. Yeah.
Ugly Love.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about the book, and we're going to talk about a narcissist, and we're going to talk about what they are, what they do, and who they are.
Exactly. And it's a lot.
And we'll be back in just a few seconds.
This episode of No Sugarcoating is brought to you by Flood Zone Car Wash. Flood Zone Car Wash is one of the last full-service car washes in the Metroplex. We have a brand new tunnel and unlimited monthly wash plans. We were voted best customer service with our experienced team. Visit us at floodzonecarwash.com. That's floodzonecarwash.com.
Welcome back. Again, I'm Jerry Dale here with Laura. Thank you for coming
I am
to the
excited to
show.
be here.
This is a topic that is heavy and it's big.
Yes.
And the word gets thrown around so much.
Yes.
And I don't really know if people understand what it is and what it's not. I think in society, we tend to pick up words and trending words and use them based on a definition from somebody who really doesn't know. And then it's kind of just gets passed around and then we just start using it and nobody really knows. But we want to clear that up for you today.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's just start with what a narcissist is.
It is a smaller definition than people think. So let's just start it that way. And many of us do tend to throw that word around a lot and not really know exactly what it is. But a narcissist is, there are only about 6% of people in the country that have been diagnosed as narcissists. So I think the number is probably a little bigger than that, but it is so difficult to get narcissists to go into therapy to be truly diagnosed by a psychiatrist or a psychologist. So there is this, you could say, the Bible for psychiatry and psychology called the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Health Disorders. And there's a whole chapter on cluster B personality disorders. And that's where you see bipolar, narcissism, and a few others, antisocial disorder.
Okay.
So that it is a true diagnosis. And so what that means is it's like on a spectrum, autism is a spectrum. Kids or adults can be very mild, but yet then become very severe. Narcissism is that way. And a little over the halfway point, if a patient or person has 5 of the 9 traits of a narcissist, then they're diagnosed as a narcissist.
Oh, so
Yeah.
so can we get the 5? Can we get 5 of them or?
Yeah, you can get, I'll give you all 9 if you'd like. It's in
Yeah.
my book,
Oh,
Ugly
so it's in the
Love.
book.
I wrote
Oh,
about
okay.
them all because it's so important to recognize. So, and just real quick, if you were to look at the scale and you were thinking, okay, who would be like at 0%? You know, I'm at about 20 because I try to control 20%. That's one of my flaws, if you will. I like to control everything, and we know we're not really in control. But Jesus was at 0%, right? So
Right.
all of us fall somewhere on the spectrum. And you can have some healthy narcissism. Maybe you're very confident and you can speak well in front of people, but that doesn't make you a narcissist. You might just have one of the traits. But yeah, let's go over the
Okay.
traits.
Yeah.
You mentioned one. Low
Empathy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's one of those that
Yep.
that I tend to have. I don't know if I just was built that way. I don't know why. I mean, I tend to care for people,
Yeah.
but I don't tend to take it on.
Yeah.
And I just think I just kind
And
of.
I was
built
telling you,
that
I
way.
think that's a strong trait, not to take it on, because people that when we take it on, we can get depressed, anxious, quit caring for ourselves because we're trying to fix someone else. So that's good for you because you can still show up for people who need you.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I've known you a long time. You're a good guy.
Thank you.
So the first one that is listed, and you'll understand this, it's a grandiose sense of self-importance. They exaggerate achievements and talents and expect to be recognized as superior without commensurate achievements.
So now, is that not? I mean, would we back in the day call that being a little conceited or being what's the word? Just another word. Like everybody kind of wants that grant at some point, right? Depending
Right.
on what you're doing or where you're at, even in your job
Hmm.
or even at home. I think maybe, as a dad or as a parent, you kind of want to have that over your children, right? As a
Right.
parent.
Right. See, the trouble is when we add several more,
Oh,
right? You see what I'm saying?
gotcha.
But I think it's the grandiosity that sometimes the narcissist will show that, and that's when we say they're an overt narcissist. And then
Okay.
sometimes they hide that, but they subtly like passive aggressive comments and because
Mm.
deep down they're vulnerable, and that's called a covert narcissist. So
Okay.
there's so many labels. So yeah, you're right. We need to have some of that, especially with kids, right?
Right.
Teenagers. You have a daughter in college. Mine's headed that way. Oh my.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He thinks I love him. I love him, but he thinks he knows everything.
Yeah. And they
Everything.
all do.
Yeah.
They all do.
17 knows it all. I'm stupid.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 2 is preoccupied with fantasies of unlimited success, power, brilliance, beauty, or ideal love.
Oh,
Hmm.
okay.
So they think they're here, but they also live here. Does that make sense? They're just
Kind of like we do in society, right? When
right.
what's the word? We outlive or we overspend or we outlive. We kind of like
Hmm.
we're here from a financial standpoint, but we overspend, right?
Right.
So it's kind of
Exactly. I
like
was
we
just thinking that.
So we
Hmm.
kind of the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I was with narcissists for 44 years, including was raised by one and then married one. And it's no secret. That's Googled a lot.
Right.
And part of my experience with narcissists, it's all about how it looks. Even like you said, even if the money's not there, it's got to be the fancy car. It's got to be the big house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how is that being married to a narcissist? Because I know there's women out there who are married to men, and that's
Hmm.
how typically what we think of when we think of narcissists. But are there women narcissists?
There are female
Okay.
narcissists.
So if there are female narcissists and then there's men, so being married to one, how is that just in general? Just I mean, what does that
Oh, it's
look like?
debilitating. They tear you apart bit by bit. There's like this whole cycle of abuse where the first part's love bombing. I don't know if any of you have heard of love bombing.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the flowers and the trips, everything is just
Mm-hmm.
intensified. And then once they have you hooked, and women do this too to men, women narcissists, they have you hooked and they start slowly whittling you down because deep down they want what you have. They maybe want your confidence or your ability for people to like you. Yeah. And then they
Yeah.
rage, and then you're cowering. You're like, oh, and you're like, I want to leave. This is horrible. And then they come back with this apology that's like, I'm sorry, but you push my buttons.
Right.
And that's where we stay stuck because then we think it's going to be okay. Well, he did apologize, kind of.
Yeah. So with that being said, when you have a narcissist who will come back and apologize, but yet you have someone, and I would say maybe they're unequally yoked, and so in this
Mhm.
aspect, but then you have someone who's a Christian who is trying to be more like Jesus and who's trying to accept this apology and still be in this
Yes.
situation. But how does that work?
It keeps you stuck. It keeps you stuck because, and rightly so, many churches want people to stay married, right? Because divorce is difficult. It's difficult on everyone involved. But sometimes that's not the healthy thing to do for anyone. The
Right.
kids, the person being abused. It's like this, it's my dad's favorite word is conundrum. It's a conundrum.
Yeah, yeah. Because I've been married twice, divorced twice, and one of the things with me especially on my second marriage, God was not involved
Hmm.
from the giddy up,
Hmm.
right? And so it was when the divorce time came, I was okay with it because I felt like God wasn't there from the get go, even
Hmm.
though things had evolved, right? Whether it was me leaning more towards Jesus at the
Hmm.
time, or not, right? It evolved. But anyway, I ended up getting divorced. So I just was wondering like what that looked like, because people stay for different reasons, right? And that's one of those things where it's like you really should probably try to get out of.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And toward the end of my marriage, the Bible verse about bring a child up in the way that you
Mm-hmm.
would, and then
Mm-hmm.
always come back to it, meaning Christianity or the Lord.
Right.
I started coming back, in my mid to late 30s and going, Lord, what is this? I'm hurt. I'm confused. This is not what I expected marriage to be. And I started learning more and more about, Jesus he got angry. It's okay to be angry. He overturned tables in the temple when the money
Right.
changers were stealing.
Right.
I am God's daughter. You are God's son. And he doesn't want his children to be abused. And when you've given it your all, and I knew I had, and we saw 5 marriage counselors over 10 years. And I saw a couple of counselors on my own. I had given it my all. I
Yeah.
knew it's just, and my health was going down the toilet. So I had to
Yeah.
get
The
out.
health thing. Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's interesting because it just came to me, God wasn't in it in the beginning. And I'm not saying your marriage, I'm just saying
It
it's
was
for
true
me,
for my
right?
marriage.
He wasn't in
Yeah.
the beginning, but when the way I was raised, when I come back to Christ,
Mhm.
really, I needed to get out in order for me to continue my relationship with Christ. Because
Exactly.
had I stayed in it, then it either would have gotten worse, because I believe my health got worse too. And I believe that was a part of it, because I was never able to be me the way I was designed to be
Mhm.
on a regular basis, because there was always something that you on your way home, I'm thinking like, okay, what am I getting today?
Mhm.
Like, what am I going to have to
Mhm.
deal with today? What's home going to look like this evening?
Oh, yes. They call that walking on eggshells,
Yes,
JD. So
yes,
you don't know what you're going to come home to. One day it could be, hey, I'm so glad you're home, baby. And the next day you come home to this raging, screaming
right,
person.
yeah,
Yeah. And so
yeah,
that makes you just anxious. I began having panic attacks in the middle of the night. I would wake up and think I was dying. At this point, I'm sleeping in the guest room with the door locked, threatening to call 911 because there was so much yelling. So yeah, it's so glad that's over.
yeah,
And you can
absolutely,
get out of it. You can.
yeah,
That's why I'm here. I'm hope that you can get out of it.
yes, yeah, and I think sometimes you don't have. I know what the church teaches, and I know what the church preaches,
Mm-hmm.
but I know what the Bible says too.
Mm-hmm.
But my belief is that when you didn't get in it with God, you can pray, and God can change both people,
Mm-hmm.
because we are
Mm-hmm.
talking about God,
Yes.
right?
Miracle
But
worker.
if God's not doing it, because if that person isn't trying to repent and become with God, then it's never really gonna work, because one of you will be with God and one of you will not be, in terms of how you're living your life. And so the marriage can't work anyway, even though when you got together, you both may not have been with God, right? 'Cause
Yes.
that's why
Right.
you got together, right? And so then as you come back to the scripture and the gospel and Jesus, it's like, yeah, you have to split. And so I actually think the church should embrace that,
Mm-hmm.
but that would mean admitting that, yeah, people get married not based on a relationship with God. Both
I
people
was
don't.
still, somewhat immature,
Right.
and had been in this, as this self-serving, it's not always that way, but a lot of it was a self-serving industry as a news anchor reporter. And it was all about the biggest story, what you were wearing, who you interviewed, what have you done for me today? And the focus was so on, you and bringing numbers in for the station. And yeah, God kind of unfortunately fell by the wayside.
Yeah. Wow. This is good. It's good stuff. So society, did we create a narcissist like
That's
just
such
over
a
time?
good question. So there are a couple answers, and all of them are true. So most of the time, not always, but most of the time, there is a genetic component and then an environmental component. So
Okay.
say you get a kiddo that both mom and dad are narcissists. and the kiddo's born, typically what we see is that someone will go the other way, like me, and totally become an empath and overfeel, try to fix everyone, or they become a narcissist. But just say you have that healthy parent that says, no, son, we don't act that way. The healthy parent takes that little seed of empathy and is able to raise a healthy child and work on that. But when you don't have two healthy parents, then
that's what it is, right? And so then
there are societal pressures on people that make them turn into narcissists. I have someone that I know that came into a lot of money and moved to a wealthy part of a major city, and she has become a narcissist. And when I knew her as a kiddo, we were fishing in a John boat in the river, putting crickets on hooks, and it's way different now.
Yeah. So that's interesting that you say that, right? So that brings a different question to me now, because we will say, right, in society that money only amplifies who you already were. And so was she already a narcissist? Was she not a narcissist, and the money actually did make her one? Right?
I didn't know enough when I was 13 and she was 15 and we're fishing.
Right.
I didn't know.
Right. Like what it was.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Because you don't know, right?
But it could have been, she was head cheerleader at a big high school. She was,
Yeah. And some of those traits at a younger age, we encourage.
Well, yes.
As a parent, we encourage them, especially when we see them in our daughters, right? Or
right.
in a female, we encourage, because it's like, oh, she's got a little, she's got some this. We wanted her to be a leader. We wanted her to do these things, and we encourage those things. And so we don't know that we could be creating or making or have a narcissist in the making, right?
I think the key with that is, for anyone wondering about raising a narcissist, is to just always teach the most important thing is kindness, right? Did you have a good day at school? Yes. Were you kind to that little boy in your class today that seems unhappy? Just encouraging.
Right.
Or when my son holds the door open for, like a woman, and I'm like, good job.
Right. Yeah. You taught him well. Him well.
I don't know about that, 'cause sometimes he doesn't do it for me. I'm like, dude.
So it brings up narcissists, but a question for me is the difference between a narcissist, sociopath, and I want to say a toxic person, because we use that word toxic a lot too, toxic relationship, toxic, but we also use narcissist. And so sometimes they get thrown around together. And I think people think they're together, and I don't know, are they the same?
No, I'm going to just run through the rest of the list.
Yes.
So we can, here we go. I think we got to number 3. We were going to do number 3. In this book, I break each one of them down. Like I'm like a grand, that grandiosity. And I give a lot of examples of it. So if you're wondering, oh, no, am I with a narcissist? It might be something good to see. Believes that he or she is special and unique and can only be understood or sort of associate with special or high status people. Like I remember a narcissist in my life was like, we're just going to go to that party and make a cameo because the people weren't good enough for him to stay. Okay.
Interesting.
So, and then requires excessive admiration, has a very strong sense of entitlement, exploitive of others. They will steal from best friends.
Nice.
I've seen it.
Wow.
Lacks empathy, as we talked about. Probably the two biggest markers of a narcissist, sociopath, or on to a toxic person or a psychopath is high control and low empathy. Narcissists are very controlling, and they don't care who they hurt to get what they want. Is often envious of others, believes that others are envious of him or her, regularly shows arrogant, haughty behaviors or attitudes. And then finally, number 9, and I may have so that was number 9, regularly shows arrogant, haughty behaviors or attitudes. So 5 of the 9 diagnosed as a narcissist. A toxic person could just be someone who's maybe controlling and passive aggressive, right? But they take it to such a level they hurt you. So a toxic person you could say it encompasses narcissism and sociopathy, or it doesn't.
Mm. So let me ask you this: controlling.
Mhm.
That's another word that gets, I think, sometimes misused. But can controlling actually be a person's form of protection?
Absolutely. And many of the narcissists learn that in their childhood. Something went sideways in their childhood with a parent or caregiver, and they had to learn to control everything that they could, from money to actions to stealing something they needed to whatever it is.
Hmm.
It could be their way of fighting back or surviving.
Yeah. Wow. And wanting to control their environment,
And control their
right?
environment.
But see it as a form of protection.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Interesting. Wow. Good stuff. So sociopath.
It's narcissism a step further. These are the worst of the, almost the worst of the worst. It's in between narcissism and then a psychopath who's like, what, Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy. You know, I watched one of those shows on Netflix and watched like 20 minutes of the first episode and was like, I can't do this. You know, he was chopping up women and putting them in suitcases. That is what like psychopaths do.
Wow.
Yeah. So sociopathy is kind of in between. I remember someone saying like a narcissist will see you crossing the street and run over you and go, oh, I told you not to cross the street. A sociopath will go faster and maybe back up once or twice to make sure they hit you. And then a psychopath will just drive on top of you and just have the car sit there and make sure you're dead. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. It's more
It
sinister
as it goes along, as it comes down. Wow. That's interesting also. So I'll tell you what, so one of the things we talked about, low empathy. You mentioned low empathy, high controlling. But what's the difference, or what are we looking at when we talk about empathy, sympathy, and pity? Because, you know, I was thinking that I have low empathy because I don't take it on. But I have good sympathy because I can sympathize with a person, and I can have pity for a person, right? Even though people say, yeah, don't pity me, right? I don't want your pity. But is sympathy and pity, are they in there as far as being a trait as well? Or, I mean, in terms of low sympathy or low, because with empathy, for me, you know, I think I was telling you earlier, if someone was like someone who takes somebody who steals, right? I was raised, you don't steal. So I never stole anything. So it's hard for me to, per the definition of empathy, it's hard for me to psychologically and vicariously be in that and take that on with someone who gets caught doing it.
Right.
Like I don't have any empathy for that person. Now I can sympathize with them for being caught in terms of what they're gonna, what their punishment is gonna be, right? I think I can sympathize with that. But so when I say low empathy, it's like, do I got one of those traits, right? Of that. So it's kind of like, that's why I'm asking, like, so, you know.
And see, I see you as having some empathy, or you wouldn't pray with people. You wouldn't be on the care team at church.
Right.
Right. So you do have some empathy. You just I don't think you recognize it.
Yeah.
I mean, people without empathy don't do that because they don't care.
They don't care.
Yeah.
I got you. That's a big difference.
Yeah.
I do care.
Be like dropping you and me in Hawaii and we're ready to help, you know, after the fires in Maui. But a narcissist, they'd be like, when's the first plane back? You know?
Got you.
I'm not doing this.
That's a big difference. That is a huge difference. So.
And pity, I don't like it when I've had people pity me because of what I've been through. I'm like, don't pity me. I'm a survivor. I'm a thriver. I got through it. But pity to me has a little bit of a negative connotation.
Okay.
Like, you know, poor you, what did you do to get yourself in that situation? But that's just my opinion.
I think that's way most people see it, because most people will say, don't pity me, right?
Right.
You know? And so nobody wants to have it, but you know, it's just one of those words. I just wanted to kind of get a feel for your take on it, and what it looked like, you know, in terms of being a narcissist or any of those things.
You know, Paul spent so many years in prison, you know, and wrote so many books of the Bible. You know, I don't know if others pitied him. I don't think so.
No,
No.
he was strong. He talked about it. So speaking of the Bible, how does narcissist in the Bible? How
I
does
started in the last few months doing some research on that because you hear about this Jezebel spirit, and
yeah.
she was such an awful woman. We don't meet her until First Kings, I think, 16, but she's like she murders someone because her husband, who's now the king, was one of the worst, most sinister kings in the Bible, Ahab.
Mhm.
And Ahab wants this vineyard, and he tells her, and she's so manipulative, and she wants that vineyard too, that she goes and kills this guy.
Wow.
And now Ahab can have the vineyard. Yeah. Just she was controlling, manipulative, a little passive aggressive. So yeah, you
All
can
those
see,
things.
and we know the Bible. I wrote down some Bible verses, speaks against it. God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. That's in 1 Peter
hmm
5:5-6. And then 2 Timothy's one that's mentioned a lot when we talk about narcissism. Beware of those who act out of a self-love attitude.
That is definitely a narcissist
Mhm.
trait,
Mhm.
right? And there's a lot of people who that's what they do, right?
Mhm.
But sometimes I wonder, do they even realize that they're doing that? Do narcissists know that they're narcissists?
I've met some that do. If you go to my YouTube page, you can see that interview I did with a guy named Lee Hancock, who went to therapy. His wife made him as an ultimatum, and he got diagnosed with NPD. They call it narcissistic personality disorder. And he talks about like how he thinks
Wow.
and how he's been in therapy for a long time. He still has that in him, but he has to think, okay, I got to control this. I got to stop controlling her. Got to be kind, or she's going to leave me. So it's still in him, but he's learned to control some of the
Wow.
symptoms.
So, for most of us, in order to be able to really change, right, we have to repent and bring Jesus into our life.
Mm-hmm.
Can a narcissist change? Can a narcissist become a non-narcissist or not a narcissist? Or
I have not personally seen it happen, even in Christianity circles. And there's a doctor named Dr. Lundy Bancroft who worked with 2,000 abusive men, mostly narcissists and sociopaths. And he only had a handful change over the course of 20 years. And that's because they did every week, individual therapy, group therapy, therapy with their wife. They had certain things to read and to watch. I mean, this is weekly. It takes a
Wow.
lot of work. And for someone to say, God, help me change, you've got to be able to submit to a higher power. And most narcissists think they're the higher power.
Yeah. So, well, with that, so then having a narcissist, I would almost say a narcissist kind of really isn't a Christian, but then it's like you have narcissists in the church. So how does that kind of work? I mean, because
Have
if
they
you're
really totally submitted to the Lord?
right,
That's what you need to ask yourself.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So even you church people, even Christians, you ask yourself, hey, am I? Do I have these traits?
Mhm.
You
And
know?
again, it's okay to have a few. We all need some, or we couldn't survive.
Right, right,
You've got to be somewhat confident in yourself and
right.
want the best for your family or whatever it is. But
But the more you have,
the more you have,
you're probably closer to being
yeah. I
one.
mean, I would say 2 or 3 are great, but when you get close to 4 or 5, I mean, 5's where you're diagnosed as a narcissist. So
Yeah. So let's talk about the book.
okay, good stuff. I say that because God told me to write it.
Okay.
My counselor at the time,
Okay.
her name was Rebecca, and she said, you really need to tell your story, just even if it helps one person. I'm like, oh, no, not me. She goes, Laura, you're a writer. You've written your whole life. Do it. I'm like, eh. And then one day I woke up and God was like, do it. And I asked my brother, who's a Christian man, I said, God's telling me to do this. He goes, you don't say no to God.
Right.
Start writing.
Good.
So I wrote it in 3 months and just poured out my heart and soul and everything that had happened to me and how
So the
I
book
got
is about
out.
your life.
Mhm.
The book is about when you recognized being
It's about being raised with a narcissist
sis-
and then marrying one, and how we're predisposed to thinking that type of life is normal. So we gravitate toward those people in our adulthood.
mm,
And I still get emails and people hit me up on YouTube or Instagram or whatever and say, I finished your book. And are you sure you weren't in my life? It's like these narcissists have a book on how to abuse
right.
people and get their
Wow.
way.
Wow. So do you have, or I won't say do you now, because you know what it looks like, but while you were married to a narcissist, did you have friends that were narcissists when you look back now? Now you may still have some of the same friends, I don't know, but like, because you say that you're drawn to them, so like,
Absolutely.
so did you end up
Absolutely.
like meeting more people and having friends that were the same way? And
Even
kinda
in the
like,
last few years,
wow,
Jerry, I've had to call some people, and you do it with love. You just
right,
don't spend as much time with them or
um,
any time at all.
yeah, because you need to
Yeah.
change, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, and you need to remain healthy once you get away from a situation like that.
hmm
Yeah,
And if people they feel like they're stuck in a relationship with a narcissist, you can't listen to those people who say, just love him more, just love her more. He must really need some attention. It doesn't work that way with a
right.
narcissist.
Wow. Now, I know there's a follow-up. Well, we don't have it here, but there's a follow-up book to this, right?
I wrote, yes, it's called Girl Get Out,
Girl Get
but
Out.
men can use it too. It's just the roadmap I developed over the course of 5 years when I realized where I was and what kind of marriage I was in, and the things I did step by step to get out and still keep my kid, my money, my sanity, my soul, and to build a
Yeah.
new life.
And I
Because
think that's important
you
because I
have
think
to be
that's what,
careful.
yeah, because I think that's what keeps some people in too, right?
hmm
Is they're scared to leave and be out on their own
hmm
because of however long you've been in a relationship
hmm
and you've gotten used to it, you've gotten comfortable with it. And so you still put up with the narcissism. But then when you get to that breaking point and you want to get out, you end up still staying in a little
Right.
bit longer because you're scared because of all the other things. And so, again, she wrote a follow-up book, Girl Get Out. And
Yeah.
so that's kind of a roadmap for people, right? Men and women to be able to get out. I mean, that's just the title is Girl Get Out.
Yeah. It talks
It's
about because as the relationship continues, you see more financial abuse. You even see some religious abuse as a marriage to someone like this continues, just across the board, anything to keep you in this little box and feeling worthless and controlled and that you'll never get out.
Yeah, yeah. So with that being said, right? So now you're away from a narcissist,
hmm
right? What does dating look like? Like, are you analyzing every guy? Are you trying to see if
No,
he's a
no. In fact, the
narcissist?
first few guys that I dated, and one had a serious relationship, turned out to be just like the same person with a different face, another
Oh,
narcissist.
wow.
So that was my red flag that I needed to go heal some
Mm.
more.
So that's good because I'll tell you, um, most people will not heal or take the time to heal. And I
hmm
think that's what's more
Yep.
important is to be able to heal. And so I'm telling you that you need to heal yourself before you go do other things because as we talked about, you have a propensity to be attracted or draw the same thing that you've been having. So if you've been in whatever relationship has looked like, you're probably going to end up with that same thing unless you heal. But you got to know what healing looks like also,
Right,
right?
right. And for
And
everyone, it's different.
different,
And it's
right?
not linear. People think, oh, I get to the mountaintop, I'm healed. It's like this. Yeah. But you get better. You still are going toward the top of the
Right.
mountain of healing. But
Yeah, kind of like an ebb and flow, but
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
because it's necessary to heal and know how to heal and know where to go to heal, and find people that are healthy.
hmm
And I'll say find you a healthy church.
Yeah, absolutely.
That way you can see some things because so many of us are not reading our Bible because ultimately I think if you just get into the scriptures, he can heal
Right. Yes.
better
It helps so much.
just by being in the Word.
And yes, that and a counselor or going through like anything spiritual, there's some spiritual retreats that can really help where you turn it all over to the Lord. And
Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
it's funny you asked that question about dating because, I've been out on some dates and then they find I read a book and they ghost me. I wrote a book and they ghost me. And I'm like, listen, I don't want you to be a narcissist. So yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm not looking for one.
No, I'm not looking for one. I love men. I want you to be the good guy. So,
Right.
and I don't sit here and go down a checklist. Yeah.
Now, you also wrote a book on dating.
I did.
Yeah.
It's more like just a primer, just what I've learned and what I'm sure you've learned too, just about ghosting's not about you.
Right.
Yeah, what online dating is like and if it's for you or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, that's one of those things where you need to be healthy,
Right.
Spend some time alone. I think part of that is being okay with being alone, or being by yourself. Like, what I'm saying, I think some of us don't like ourselves, right? And not because of who we are initially, but because of what we've been through with a narcissist or with someone who is toxic or with the sociopath or whatever, right? And we've been with that person. So now we end up not really liking who we are. So we don't want to be alone. So we kind of mask it.
Yes.
And we keep, and we're already drawn to someone
Right.
who's very similar in those areas. And so I think we have to learn to be okay with ourselves and spend some time with ourselves first.
And I think, and I don't know about you, you can tell me one of the ways in the last even couple of years I've known that I'm healing so much more quickly than I ever thought is I would rather stay home and read a book and maybe have a glass of wine than go out with people who are toxic or who are draining or who don't support me or, they're not that type of spirit. I'm not saying they're bad people. I'd rather stay home.
Yeah. So I have the same thing, but I think some of that for me has also been the growth with my relationship with God, right? Because there are things now that I just don't even like doing and don't want to do and don't want to be around. And I have friends that I love them to death, but I can only take them in doses. And I can only do certain things with them. And I can only be with them when it's just them and I, right? Because when they're around other people, some of those traits tend to be amplified because of they're around other people, right?
Oh, it's yes. I'm getting back on YouTube and Instagram and doing all those things that I did a couple of years ago. I took a couple of years off just for me because I went right from that marriage into doing all this work with narcissism. And then I had some eye surgery and fun things like that. So it was a really nice break, actually.
Okay. Well, we're going to drop the link for her book, her YouTube page, and so all her social media, so that those of you who want to know if you're living with a narcissist, if you weren't able to pick up the traits, you can find the book, and that way you can see what that looks like, what, you may be living with one right now.
You know what? I'll do a video on that too and break all 9 down. That's probably a good idea.
In that way. So, check out, go to her YouTube page, look at it, but, learn who you are and learn who you're living with. And know who you're living with and read the Bible. Just read your Bible, read the scriptures, and let God guide you. And I promise you everything will work out the way it's supposed to. Laura, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for coming on the show.
It was
Thank
my
you for
pleasure.
your time. And that's a wrap here at No Sugarcoat. Just remember, we keep it 100% truth, 100% real, and 100% authentic. Thank you.
The No Sugarcoatin' Show is powered by GospelFirstMinistries.org.